Hey card makers, Tricia Morris here at Club Scrap. I'm really excited to make these cards along with you. All of my hard work is done, and that included developing all the cutting maps and making all the prototypes and testing everything, and then Jacqueline doing all the creating and then making more prototypes to make sure everything worked out. And this is probably where I coast into the finish line of my collection, and I'm very proud of this one. So I hope you love making these cards. I'm all ready to go here. I've got my instructions printed. You don't have to print yours. You can follow along maybe on a tablet screen or a computer screen if you'd like. And then from the kit, I'm gonna just dump off all of the goodies and envelopes and things. So I just have the paper. And I've got my Fiskars trimmer here along with my accordion pocket file. Now, incidentally, this pocket file is made from duplex paper, and a similar type of paper is featured in this collection. So I'm gonna take the lip of this and just put it under my trimmer base here so it's held up, and that's where we're gonna file everything so we can stay organized during our trimming phase. So we'll trim everything needed for all 12 cards, and we're also going to make this clever little gift box for your 5x7 cards, which is super cool. So we'll keep a separate pile even for this. So pocket A, B, C, and D will be full by the time we're done with this prep work. Before we begin, I'm going to take the paper that is just in a random order and organize it in the order that we'll trim it. So, and since we're working with a duplex paper, it is going to be a little weird. So I refer to the paper as orange/pink. You're going to need the orange/pink paper first. So I'm going to put it orange side face down. And then it turns pink. Next, find one sheet of the green, and it's going to be blue on the other side. I'm going to put it green side down. So weird. I hope I didn't lose you already. And then I need two more orange pink. So I'll do an orange face down and a pink face down. And let's do one green face down and one blue face down. How about a pink face down and a green face down, followed by two prints. These are just the all over prints. And then we have our Cutaparts. Let's take the one that has So Glad You're You, and the second one that has Thinking of You in this long oblong shape. And that's all going face down, only to flip it back over. Now, if you get lost in all those duplex papers, don't worry about it. Basically, at the end, when we make cards out of all of this, then we can flip things to the way we want them to get the variety we're looking for. It just makes the whole process a little bit more free, a little bit more flexible. So this first piece of paper, I'm going to determine the grain direction, because eventually I want the grain to cooperate with the direction of the longest folds we're about to make out of this paper, especially since it's so heavy. So if you hold it by this edge, it's quite stiff. If I hold it by this edge, it wiggles pretty good. So I'm going to put it in the trimmer so it wiggles easily from left to right. And our first cut's going to be at 10 inches. 10. Now once you find the hole number 10, make sure it's flush at the top, push down on this clear bar, and give it a little slice. That's it. This gets set aside on a pile to be scored, so that just goes away for now. And the remaining piece I will trim to 7 1/4. Now I'm gonna put everything for the box and the lid in pocket D, I guess. And this other smaller piece is a scrap, so I'm just gonna set that aside and out of the way. The next piece, this is the green/blue, so I'm gonna check the grain. Once again, I want this one to dip or bend most easily from left to right, and I'm gonna trim it at 9 1/4. So 9 plus 1/4. And then 9 1/8. So 9 1/8 is halfway between 9 and 9 1/4. So there's 9. This is 9 1/8. Then I'm going to rotate the 9 1/8 piece and cut it at 11 1/8. So 11 1/8 is halfway between 11 and 11 1/4. There's 11 1/8. And this is going to become the box lid, and that also needs to be scored. So I'm going to set it aside. And there is the matter of this little guy and this one. You can just put that in the scrap pile, okay? Meanwhile, this strip, I'm gonna trim at 9, 6, and 3. So 9, 6, and 3. Okay, so gather all of these and place them in pocket B. I'm going to turn to page 2 in my instructions for our next cutting map. 2 of the orange pink. So I'm going to take one with the orange side facing up and just find it so that the direction of the easy bend goes from top to bottom in the trimmer. And then same for the pink. Make sure it dips most easily from top to bottom. That's the opposite of the first direction that we went. And we're going to cut at the same time now. Hopefully, if you feel confident, you can do that, or just repeat the thing twice, one sheet at a time. Our first cut is 11 1/4. So I'm going to, again, find the whole number 11, go to the left, 1 vertical column. That's 11 1/4. Press firmly on this clear bar. I've got 2 really heavy sheets of paper in here. I don't want the blade to pull them away. And then all the way down to 7. Same thing, push firmly while you slice. Then we rotate this piece and we'll cut at 8. These pieces will become card bases, so they need to be scored. I'll set them aside on that special pile. And then this rectangular piece, I'm going to trim at 6 inches. The large panel placed in pocket B. And if you don't have the accordion pocket file, just have a pile A, B, C, and D. And then this narrow piece, pocket A. And you still have a 12-inch larger strip here. We'll trim at 11. Set the 2 pieces aside to be scored. And then you've got this smaller piece that goes in pocket A. And then this one, we're going to trim this pair of 3/4 inch pieces. We'll trim at 5 3/4. And for these smaller cuts, I like to just, rather than have it way up here where I can't see very well, when I trim at 5 3/4, I'm going to put the top edge of the paper aligned with the line underneath the inches. The 5 3/4 inch piece, place it in pocket B. And this other piece you can put on your pile of scraps. It's going to be quite small. And now we get to do that one more time. We're going to take with green, dipping from front to back, north to south, top to bottom, whatever you want to call it, whatever speaks to you. And then same with the green, the other green one. And this I'll do blue side facing up. In the end, the color is only determined by the direction on which you adhere it. So we might be flipping things over as we go and as our hearts desire. Okay, so 11 1/4 is where I begin here. Stabilize. And then 7. Rotate and cut at 8. These 2 pieces will be scored. And then the rectangle will cut at 6. Pocket B and pocket A. This next larger piece, trim at 11. Needs to be scored. Pocket A. This one we trim at 5 3/4. Pocket B. And the scrap pile. Now we're going on to one of the orange pink, and I'll just do pink side up just because. And this time again, I want it dipping from the left to the right most easily. There we go. And then I'll do the green, blue at the same time. Green going left, right. Our first cut is going to be at 11 1/2. 11 1/2. And then 9. Now rotate. The 9 by 12 will cut at 11 1/4, 10 1/2, 7, and 3 1/2. Now one of these rectangles here will trim horizontally at 4 1/2. And both of these are going to be placed in pocket C. The next two sets of these rectangles that are the same will be scored. And then you have two sets of these really narrow pieces. We're going to trim them. I'll just do two at a time, and we'll cut them at 8.5. Again, I'll use the bottom of the inch mark here so I can see my measurement a little better and still keep it level. And I'll do the other pairing at 8.5. Place both of these in pocket C. And you did create some really tiny scraps. You could probably just get rid of those right away if you want to. On the next long strip here, I'll trim at 6. And both of these, or all of them, go in pocket C. And this is for your scrap pile. We're getting there. Now we're at the print already. We'll cut at 11.25. Doesn't matter how this goes into the trimmer. I notice in classes that once I teach about the grain, everyone's always checking it before they put it in the trimmer, which is amazing. But since this won't be folded, it really doesn't matter. 11.75. Stabilized because this paper can slide a little bit. And then 8. And 4.25. Rotate the 4.25, and we will cut at 9.75, 6.5, 3.25. You should have 3 panels that are the same size, and those are going to go in pocket C. And then this one goes in the scrap pile. Now the next two pieces should be the same width. I'm going to put them back to back so the white faces white. That'll keep it from sliding, and we'll cut at 10 and 5. You've made 4 panels that are the same size. You can put them all in the same direction again and place them in pocket A. You've got a couple of scraps here, this long skinny piece and these two little rectangles. Now we're going to the other print. This is a different way to cut this one. So we'll first cut at 8.25 and then 4.5. Now rotate. Trim this one at 9.75 and 6.5. This will go in pocket D. It's for the lid. The next rectangle on the top of the stack, so if you lost track, it's 3.25 by 4.5. We need to trim it just horizontally at 4.25. It takes off a little bit. This one goes in pocket C, and this is a tiny scrap. And then the next piece, trim horizontally at 3. Turn it over to the plain side and put it in pocket D. Again, that's for the box lid. And this is a scrap. The next two strips should be the same size. We're going to put them white on white again, and we'll cut at 11.5 and 5.75. Put everything back to rights. And we can place these in pocket B. Should be some little scraps there. And we're moving on to the Cutaparts. For my newbies again, and I always try to review this, we're putting in a little written reminder that everything past that little white line we've added to this print needs to go. So trim away the excess paper from the outer perimeter. When I do my first cut off the edge, I typically go a little shy of the line, and then I clean it up on my final rotation. So just cut that. And when I rotate here, I can see the white line a little better. I'll line it up with the blade that I can now see both at the top and the bottom of the sheet down here. And then when I rotate again, I can start to look for a 12 to be here on the left. And then here, in this cut, just line it up again. And just make sure my reading is 12. If not, you can clean it up just a little bit. I love how the trimmer can literally take off a hair. It's kind of nice. Okay, and throw all those little scraps away. And we're going to go back to the words, so glad you're you, should be in the upper left corner. And our first cut is at 9 3/4. If you look, you should be going through the seams between the artwork and not through the artwork. And then 7 1/2, 5 1/4, and 3. And now we rotate and trim at 9, 6, and 3. Gather up the little squares you made and place them in pocket A. And grab the next 2 if you would like. We'll trim them together. If you want, we can face the whites again, just so that there's no slippage. And we'll start out at 11 1/2. And 5 3/4. You just have to make sure that they're end to end so you don't accidentally cut through artwork here. So put everything back to rights again. These 4 get placed in pocket C, along with the little pieces that fell off the end. I actually found a really sweet little home for these little, what would have been scraps. So I placed those in C as well. And what I meant was, if you want to trim these at the same time, make sure that you face them together so that the ends come off correctly and that something doesn't get rotated, right? That would be no good. Okay, 11 1/2 again. And 5 3/4. We can turn everything so it's facing the right direction. And all of this goes into pocket C as well. One last cut apart needs to be trimmed for prep. So I'm just gonna take a little bit off the ends, just like I did before. And you can pause me while you do the same thing. Just make your rotations until you have a perfect 12 by 12. Once that's complete, make sure the words "Thank you for being my friend" are in the upper right corner. And we will cut at 9 1/2, 7, 4 1/4. Rotate, we'll do some nice easy ones. We'll go 9, 6, and 3. Stack all these up into pocket A. Pick up the next strip. We'll go 10, and then 7 1/2, 5, 2 1/2. So you'll have 4 the same. Those go in B. And then the word greetings, that goes in pocket D. That's the lid for the lid of your box. These 2 are the same. Again, you can face them white on white. And we'll cut them in half at 6 inches. Because all 4 of these pieces, once you face them correctly, will be placed in pocket B. That's it. That's all the trimming. Now we're going to switch to some scoring. So I'm going to get rid of this and then lay this on its back. And now I have my score pile ready to go and my pile of things that I've set aside to be scored. So we'll work through this pile in the same order that all the things landed. That means we'll begin with these rectangular pieces. We're going to score, let's see, at 8 1/2. Now this is the green is facing up. And I'll score at 8 1/2 with the pink facing up. The next 2 I'm going to flip over. So now, the blue will face up, score at 8 1/2. And the orange will face up, score at 8 1/2. So this way, one of each color is scored in the same direction. All of this will go in pocket C for that really clever slim line we're about to make. Then we have a set of 4 1/4 by 11. So make sure it's that size. We'll place it into the score pile horizontally and score at 5 1/2. That's the blue. I'm going to do the green, score at 5 1/2. Reach past the next couple of pieces and you'll find one in pink and one in orange. So we'll score those at 5 1/2 also. These will just be folded in half and are intended to be the card bases for set A. Those go in pocket A, of course. And then now we have a set of 4 pieces that aren't quite square. One end will be 7 and one will be 8. So I want you to place these into the score pile with the 7 at the bottom and the 8 on the right here. So they're basically horizontal, and we'll score at 5. So that was the blue, and now the green. Make sure it reads 8 right here, and then we'll score at 5. The next one is pink. We'll score at 5. And then the next one is orange. Once again, confirm you're at the 8-inch up here and score at 5. All of these go in pocket B. And we've arrived at preparing our box lid. Now, if I score with the green side facing up, I'll have a green lid. If I score with the blue side facing up, I'll have a blue lid. Now let me show you what I chose to do here. I chose to have a green lid, and you can have a blue inside. It happens automatically. You can flip it and have a blue lid, whatever you want. I'm just gonna stick with my green lid here. And I'm gonna score at 7/8 of an inch from all the edges, and then 1 3/4 inch from all the edges. So 7/8. It's nice on this score pal because they show every eighth, and there's a little groove at every eighth. So 7/8 is 1 groove before the 1. Oops. Make sure you're pressing firmly enough so you don't go astray. And then I'm going to do 1 3/4 at the same time. All right, so that was 7/8 and 1 3/4. And I'm going to rotate a turn and do the same thing. 7/8, 1 3/4. Another turn. 7/8, 1 3/4. And one final turn. 7/8, 1 3/4. Technically, this can go into pocket D. And now we are at the orange pink, and I chose to make a pink base, so I'm going to go with the same decision there. Again, based on my sample that I have here, an orange base would be really pretty too. I don't know. Maybe I'll go an orange base, just to be different. So orange will be up, just because. And this time I'm going to score at 1 1/8, so it's 1 channel to the right of the 1. 1 more than the 1. 1/8. And 2 1/4. 2 1/4. From each edge. So I'm going to rotate 1 1/8, 2 1/4. 1 1/8, 2 1/4. 1 1/8, 2 1/4. I wish I could tell you how many boxes I made to get these measurements perfect. What I was looking for is a lid that was shorter than the base, but a lid that was larger than the base. And I wanted it to be agreeable to our format of our paper being 12 inches max. And also it had to perfectly fit the 5x7 cards in their envelopes. So that was my challenge. And I have a lot of boxes that, yeah, they made it into the circular file, shall we say. I'm technically putting everything for the box into pocket D, but I think we're going to be reaching for all that stuff right away. We'll make the box first. So I'll set aside the score pal, and I'll grab my scissors and a bone folder. You'll need some adhesive. And I'm just going to take everything out of pocket D so that I have all the pieces I need to make my lid. In the instructions, if you turn to page 3, you will see some diagrams here. And those are real specific diagrams that should help you be successful in figuring out what has to be removed with scissors from each of these. We'll start out with the base. I'm going to take that base paper and turn it so that the bumps of the score lines, whatever color they are, it doesn't matter, the bumps need to be facing up when we do this job. Okay, so every score line has a bump or an indentation. Just look for the bump. Take my scissors and I'm going to hold the paper vertically, and the second score line from the right, I'm going to cut it to remove it. So basically I'm going to add what I would call a small dart. And that literally just takes that out of that box. Now I've done this box many, many times before, so you might be familiar with this. And then I'm going to go just to the left side of this furthest score line and angle toward the intersecting score line that goes horizontally. So here's the first, here's the second, and that's where I stop. Then from the right, I'm going to go just above that score line to take that score line away and angle toward that cut I've already made to remove the corner completely. That takes out basically a rectangle and a dart, and that gives me a tab right here, and that's what I want. Now I'm still working vertically, so I'm going to move over here, and the second score line, I'm going to remove it by cutting a dart up to the second intersecting score line, and that goes bye-bye. And I'm going to cut on the right side of the first score until I get to the intersecting second score line and go to the side to remove that corner. Now I have 2 tabs. And if you think vertically, now those tabs are at the bottom. So rotate the entire paper around 180 degrees. Don't flip it, just rotate it. And I'm going to create those same tabs on this side. So going from the second score up to the intersecting second score line, take out the dart. Then go on the left side of the next score line and remove the corner. On this side, the second score, take out the dart. Then on the right side of the first score, cut to the corner and remove the corner. And now you have the perfect structure to make our tray base. And I'm going to get rid of all of these scraps. Now, the bumps of the score lines, remember, are still facing up, and I'm going to now give each score line a fold. So I'm going to start with the big lines, okay? These are going to be what's called the short walls of the box or tray, and these will be the long walls, will be on the sides. Short comes up, both score lines. Now you have the tabs. You only need to fold on the second score of each of the tabs. Don't fold on the first one. If you do, it's okay, but you don't need to. Now you can either use bookbinding glue or your favorite really good quality adhesive for this job. Since this paper is such a heavy weight, I kind of liked the bookbinding glue for this because it's really going to hold it securely, or like score tape or ATG tape. We do carry all 3 of those types of adhesives here at Club Scrap. Just something that's going to give you a nice bond. Then I'll do the same thing on the left side. Notice the paper is still positioned vertically on my work surface. And I will glue the side wall basically onto itself. And it might just need a second to start the bond. And once you have it, it's not going anywhere. Beautiful. At this point, what will happen is, and you can test drive this, is these walls are going to go up to form an angle, and then the bottom wall will go up and around those tabs, and so will the top wall. So in order to make all that happen, I'm going to again apply the glue to the outside, and you could maybe even add a little bit to the outside, in this case the orange side of these flaps, so it sticks to this side wall here. So I'm going to bring the side walls in, make sure my tabs form that corner. 2 corners are formed, you see it? And then this flap that I've glued goes up and over. And what's nice is that I have used a wet glue that allows me to readjust if I didn't make that move well. And what I'd recommend if you're using the wet glue is to lay the tray on its side and then just bring your bone folder in there to help it bond well. Okay, now I'll add my glue once again to the short wall here. And if you want, you can add a little to the flaps, just to, you know, it's just a little guarantee. And then go up and around. And once again, secure the bond with a little bit of burnishing with your bone folder. A beautiful box tray. Let's repeat that. We are going to follow the same protocol, and that's the fun of it. Because I have all these measurements figured out, remember you're working vertically. Remember that the bumps of the score lines are facing up while you do this as a best practice. And again, I'm creating my tabs by adding the dart and removing the corner on each end. So there you go with that. And then I'm going to rotate 180 degrees, add the dart, remove the corner. Add the dart, remove the corner. So you can repeat this process again and again with paper from your stash now that you have the measurements. Next step is to, once again, gently make the folds on the long walls. You can definitely tell when you're working against the grain. That's why I made the longest walls with it. And then we can fold over the tab just at the second score line. Add your glue to the long walls. And then you're going to need some time to let that cure a little bit so you can burnish it even. All right, next we have to add our glue to the short walls, and I'll just put a little dab right on these guys. Turn in to form our 90-degree sides, and then up and round. And burnish. Same for that other side wall here. If you use a liquid glue or a score tape, you never have to worry about that popping up again. Again, the reason why I use the liquid in this situation is it gives me a little bit of a second chance, unlike a tape that instantly bonds the minute it makes contact. The glue is not like that. Now I can take my box tray and add my box lid, and it fits perfectly. It fits well enough that it stays, but it doesn't get stuck. That was my goal, so it was a lot of fine tuning there. And now we have these remaining 4 pieces. I'm gonna grab a corner chomper. The rounded corner was a nice little design element that Jacqueline added to the frames that she used in this collection. And I'm gonna cooperate with that by using the punch. And you can use like a regular hand punch, like, you know, I have one I bought in probably the early 90s that I use as well. And then I'm just gonna nest this greetings sentiment onto the plain side of the print. That worked out really slick. Because of my efficient use of the paper, I just almost had nothing nothing left to mat that with that was a color. Now on this strip here, I'm going to use that as kind of like an anchoring device, and when I run the corners, I'm only going to do the 2 on the long edge here. And then on this panel, I'm going to do all 4. That was just a preference. Okay, now I'm going to take some ribbon here. I'm going to take the pink, fold it in half, and then just kind of figure out if I were to put the loop of the folded loop of the ribbon here, I just need enough to reach to the back of this piece. So I'm going to cut some of that and take the ribbon now and decide kind of where I want this to be on the back. I'm going to separate them just a little bit to see the space between the 2. And I've got my tape right here, handy. I'm just going to tape that to the back. Then I'm going to come in with my orange ribbon. We're going to do a ribbon blend here. And I think I'll just trim a length as well with the folded end kind of where I planned this one to meet, and make sure you have enough to go around to the back. Trim that off. So I'm checking the grain direction of the ribbon, making sure it bends the way it wants to bend. Thread it through the pink and hold that pink and just give it a little tug. Nice. Oh, that's so pretty. And then split those ends a little bit Wrap them around to the back and tape them in place. You can also use washi tape or something if you don't have any cellophane tape handy. That is sweet. Next, I'm going to attach this to the box. Just try to make sure I'm level and not like tipsy-turvy all over the place with my alignment. I'm going to do the pink side up. You could have done orange side up, you know, whatever you're in the mood for, whatever you're feeling at the time. Just make sure it's level. Then I will add adhesive to my beautiful little printed paper here. And I'm going to visually center this on the box. Of course, I always encourage you to use your ruler. And then finally, this can be added wherever you see fit. I'm going to let this kind of drift, the right edge of it to drift off into the green space a little. And I have my box completed. I think this would make a beautiful teacher gift, a piano or a school teacher or something. I was a piano teacher, that's why I go to piano teacher. And you can put a mix of the greeting cards inside. I think it would be treasured, plus not something that she has to dust for the next 27 years of her life. You know what I'm saying? Okay, that is the box. Now, I'm gonna go on to everything from pocket A. So we'll take all of that out. And what I want you to do is sort all of those pieces out by size. So just kind of take a moment to get organized, freshen up your workspace, and we'll create this set of cards together. Once your stuff is organized, we can take the card bases and fold them in half. Always make sure that the bump of the score line, when you make that fold, goes on the inside of the fold. So there's the indentation, here's the bump. Make sure the bump is on the inside. And again, that practice will guide you through the best quality work, but also it will turn the correct color on the outside of the card, I guess. Okay, now let's distribute our pieces. A little tip for you, if you're trying to save some time and you want to round all the corners, for example, of something, you can stack up to 4 of them. This is an 80-pound cover weight white cardstock here. And you can feed them into that corner chomper all at once. And that way all the corners that you want to round have been rounded, which is pretty cool. I'm going to hold on the other pieces just because what if I change my mind about something? I want to make sure, you know, I don't overdo it. So you've got your sentiments, your innies, and your card bases, strips, and your printed panels. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and round all 4 corners of my printed panels since that's what they were. What a huge time saver. It's a great reason to have one of these corner chompers. We try to keep them in stock, but it's hard to, they go out of stock quickly and I haven't been able to get them for a little bit. Now for my deal, and the deal is essentially where we distribute all of the pieces that we have onto one of the 4 cards. So I'm going to start out with pink, then I'm going to go blue. Those are going to be vertical. And then I'm going to have a horizontal orange and a horizontal green. Now be mindful that the color changes on the inside of the card, which is so cool. Each one gets a printed panel. That should nest perfectly. Each one gets a sentiment. So on the vertical, they're the same. I think happiness looks gorgeous on you. And then the really fun little longer quote on the horizontal. Each one gets an inside. So have a wonderful day. And then congratulations. So the sentiment is perfect for either, you know, and you could leave the sentiment off if you want to just have a note or thinking of you. Always remember that. Like this could be a birthday card, this have a wonderful day, or it could be a thinking of you. It could be a thank you. There's a lot of open-endedness to these sentiments, and that's intentional. And then these other 2, same thing, and the inside say, so glad you're you. Now, I did have these, what would have been scraps, and why let them be scraps when they're going to be a cool accent for this card? So I'm going to take if you notice, one is 4 inches long, and the other is 4 1/4 inches long. So I'm going to do the long ones first. We've got an orange, a green, a pink, and a blue. Then I'm going to incorporate another color. I'm going to go on the shorties. I'm going to go green and pink. And I put another green one here. So just flip it over. at orange. There you go. Then from my envelopes, I'll find the A2 envelope. If you want, you could just put all the contents of card 2 into an envelope. Card 3. Sometimes I just put it all in one envelope. And that way, when you go back to finish the rest of your cards, because we're just going to make one of each, then everything's ready to go. So if you have a planned event, a crop or something you want to go to, take your kit this far, the part where you have to concentrate, then hang out with your friends and do the fun part. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to do some other corner rounding really quick. I'm going to do the open-ended corners of my card base. And then 2 corners on one short edge of these bad boys. That's it. The printed panel. It's basically now just assemble, just adhere. So I'll center this on. That looks nice. And then I'll take this orange panel, put the adhesive on the pink side. It's a little bit freaky when that happens. I'll grab a ruler and I'm going to go just past where the corners round to make sure I stay level. And I'm going to attach the square edge of this panel to this top edge of the print on that side. I'm going to put the adhesive on the blue side. And once again, just have the ruler help you make sure that it stays straight. Okay. Now this is going to go, and it just gives me this nice splash of color coming out from either side. And you can use your ruler or visually center this on. Now your kit comes with these really sweet little enamel dots, and if you happen to have like a craft knife or something, I find it's the best way to pick those up. And then you can add a set in a little row of 3. And if you do it this way, you'll have just enough small dots to complete all the cards in the A set. So that's 1, 2, 3. If you choose to do it this way, you don't have to, of course. It's only a suggestion. And then we'll flip it and do the other 3. And if you wanted to, you could add maybe a few medium-sized or even large to kind of follow through with the fact that there are other dots on the artwork of the card. And you'll have plenty of these dots to go around. You could even save a few for your pages if you wanted to, if you're going to make the Whimsy pages. As far as a ribbon embellishment, this is up to you, but you can add a basic bow. I'm going to do that with the pink. And with this one, I'll just make the 2 bunny ears that cooperate with the grain direction of the ribbon. Crisscross the ears. Bring the front one around and through that hole. And pull. Initially, it's kind of an ugly bow, but if you just play with the loops a little bit, you can get it nicely arranged. I like how this particular method of making a bow makes it nice and flat. And then I typically just use a glue line to, if you want to burnish the glue line right onto the bow first, since the paper is a little adhesive resistant, and then center it on the bottom. Then you have a sweet card with a sweet bow. All we need is the inner sentiment. I have this long piece of blue. I'm just going to cut this. Let's see. And we can round our corners. Put the adhesive on the green side. When I add this, I usually like to just bring the top of the card up so that I never glue anything that will interfere with the functionality of the card. I don't know if that makes sense, but I hope it does. And then add my sentiment. Have a wonderful day. Boom. Okay, the other cards in this set, this is the one that we made. It matches beautifully. Then we have a matching one. Same thing. I didn't change a thing in the assembly. Then the horizontal, the only thing I changed was I didn't add a bow. I just added the 3 small dots on the left and right edges, and then the sentiment on the inside. Love it. Okay, so that is set A. So I'm going to take the sample card, and if you want, you can just put it with the envelope that goes, put it with the others, that coincide and set it aside. Clean up your workspace, and we're going to switch to everything from pocket B. So empty that out and sort out the pieces so that they're all in like size sets. And the next thing you can do is fold along the score line, making sure that the bump of the score line is buried on the inside of the fold, and burnish carefully. Once again, if you followed my scoring instructions as far as color, everything should fall into place beautifully, where you'll have one card of each color combo. I did several things with rounded corners, so in this case, again, if you want to do that in batches, you would want to do that before you distribute all of the card panels to the various cards. So for this really super heavy duty duplex paper, I'm doing 2 at a time. Then when I get to the printed Cutaparts, I can do 4 at a time, which is pretty amazing again. And that is, of course, if you have the hand strength. Sometimes I struggle with pain in my hands, and so I can't quite do as many. Now be careful when you get to these. I'm just going to do 2 corners on opposite long edges. And then the same is going to be true for these other 2. I'll do just 2 edges, long side here, and then the other 2. And then you have your sentiments, these as well. I'm going to round all of them at the same time. Why? Because I can. Okay, let's do our deal now so that we have all the pieces really thoroughly prepped, thus making assembly just so super easy. First card I lay out is going to be this blue flap, then an orange flap, a pink flap, and a green flap. Then each one will get a colored panel. Let's go with pink, green, and these are just suggestions, blue, and orange. Then a printed panel, 1, 2, 3, 4. Next, a strip, orange, and we're just incorporating the missing color, pink, green, and blue. Now we're going to have a vertical rectangle. We only have 2 choices. I'm going to go blue, blue, green, green. Life is better with you. I hope this card makes you feel less crummy. Let's do what we love and a lot of it. That's both of those. Finally, the inner sentiments. Thank you for being my friend. Thinking of you. Wishing you a fun-filled day on both of these. At this point, I'll take my A7 envelope and dump all of the pieces required for these cards into the envelopes for easy assembly, easy tracking of material. And each one will get one of these really funky sequins. So I can even add the sequin embellishment to these so it stays together. And let's make this one with me. Okay, this is such a basic, wonderful little assembly process. You're gonna love it. Before we do anything, I'm gonna take a piece of this blue ribbon and I'm gonna cut off just shy of a 2-inch piece and fold it in half. Gives me a nice little spot in the typeset design here. And then I'll staple that ribbon in place on there. That worked great. And then if I want, I can take some, these are our self-adhesive, these are our foam adhesive circles. And we can, I always just cut them in half because then I can be a little more frugal with them. They go a lot further, which is nice. And I can use a few more on my cards to make them a little bit more poppy, if you know what I'm saying. And then just, if I cut right through the pull tab, when I cut them in half, I have a pull tab for each one. You see how fast that went? Okay, so I'm going to nest this onto the blue. It's also safe at this point to nest the printed panel onto the corresponding plane. And I can take this piece, I'm going to put my adhesive on the pink side, and I will nest this on here, maybe 3/8 of an inch from the edge, 3/8 to 1/4. Now I have this sequin. I'm going to grab my trimmer. Now, do you see how there's a little attachment hole at the top and bottom of the sequin? I'm going to try to align the right edge of that hole with my blade so that I take off everything to the right of the hole. Once I do that, I'm going to scoot the sequin down a little bit and align the left edge of the blade with the left edge of the hole. And if I don't quite get it all, just make another slice. Oh, that's okay. I sliced a little too much off. I lost a petal from my flower. No big deal. Okay, so here I have my 2 sequins. One is going to be placed here and the other here. Okay, to do that, I think the best way to place them is to use our bookbinding glue, because you get this precision application, and honestly, that other little petal does not matter at all. You're not going to even notice it's gone. And I'm just using that strip as a placement guide. Now on this one, you will be able to see all of the petals. So I'm aligning that there. Side note, if you want, you can take a medium-sized enamel dot, and we're going to place one in the center of the bottom flower. Sweet. And this, I put adhesive on this, and it's going to cover that sequin. Now I'd like to still round the corners of the card, and we are doing this individually anyway, so I'm just going to do the short flap and I'll do the back flap. So basically all 4 corners. Oh, that looks so good. Now, be really careful. If I just visually center this wrong side up, you can see my adhesive line has to end there, or I'm going to glue my card into a postcard that can't be opened. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm going to try to center this with my ruler here. So 3.5 is going to be the edge. Yes, it's a 1/2 inch margin. So I'm centered at 3.5 on each edge, and then I'm going to position this at 3 on each edge. Beautiful little 5x7 card. Now you're going to have a set of 4 scraps that are pretty ideal to position along an edge here, maybe to give it a little anchor for this guy. And maybe you'll want to like round 2 corners, or I did a little really deceptive trick when I assembled mine, and I'll show you what that is in a second. But you can like layer this here centered, and then add an inner sentiment. Very nice. Now on the other sample I made, you should have like a long piece. It's a little skinnier, and I trimmed it to 6 1/4 and added it. Another option that I did on some of the other cards, let's look. This one, I just broke the piece in half and put 1/2 on each end, so you couldn't tell that it wasn't complete. Very, very sneaky. That's the ultimate fake. Here's the skinny one I could trim to fit. So it's really just designer's choice. Whatever you want to do with these little scraps, or whatever you want to do to anchor things down in the middle, or just simply add your sentiment. It doesn't matter. Just trying to give you some different ideas, but you can see all of these cards have the same assembly process. It's time for set C already. I love it. So I'm going to tidy up here, and we'll get started by sorting through everything in the pocket. Now I have everything sorted by size, get my instructions to page 6, the final page, and let's get distributing. I'm going to just assure you that I'm rounding corners on a lot of this, and we'll just do the one as we go on the card sample. So I'm going to take the piece, the largest piece here that's scored with a little tab, and find the pink one. That's going to be my first card base. Then the green one facing up, and then the orange, and then the blue. Then there should be a smaller rectangular piece of a solid color I want you to take one so that it's orange side facing up and put it on the first card, blue up on the second card, red up, or pink up on the third, and lime on the fourth. Next, there should be a print that fits nest-worthy onto each one of those panels. Then there's a rectangular piece. We want one with the blue up, next with the orange, next with the green, and finally pink. Again, we're adding a lot of color variation. Now we have sentiments to distribute. So how about, we've got a big congratulations we're starting with. And then there are friendships. This is one of my favorite. I just had to put this on a card. You know you're getting old when you stoop down to tie your shoes and wonder what else you can do while you're down there. That's me. And then you have happy birthday. Okay, for the innies, celebrating you and this special moment, missing you and hope this finds you well. Hope your day is nothing but wonderful, and celebrating you and this special moment. Then there is a series of narrow strips. We can go green, pink, blue, and orange. You saw the flip happen. And one of these little decorative end cuts will go in each one too. Now, let's get card 432 put away so we can assemble card 1 together. So I will just put these in kind of at an angle because that panel is way too long right now to fit into the envelope. It'll be good later, but not quite yet. I do love this method. It's very efficient. I eavesdropped on a call that came in. Karen, her office is right down the hall, and a gal was just saying, you know, she never thought she'd like to make cards. But now that she's done, she learned the page making, you know, the scrapbooking method, and she couldn't believe how awesome it comes together with cards as well. So I hope you, even if you're maybe a little bit discouraged or overwhelmed right now, if you hang in there with me, this is going to become your favorite way to make cards. I'm rounding 2 corners of this printed panel and 2 corners of the corresponding panel. The non-scored side of this card base, this sentiment, the congratulations. I could have done the other one at the same time. And the inside sentiment. And finally, the mat. Now I'm going to take the scored piece and fold it over. And now I can see the orange side. Then I'm going to take this orange piece and glue it on top of that tab with bookbinding glue. That would be my adhesive of choice, again, so that I have the ability to move things if I need to. So just lay that right on there. And that's what gives us our complete card. That really, if I were to try to make this out of a single sheet of paper, it would be more than 12 inches long. Such a clever assembly, again suggested from my dear friend Susan, who sent a sample of the card similar to the structure, and I just fell in love with it. Okay, at this point too, I'm going to go ahead and just nest my congratulations onto the blue panel here. Gotta just really watch your order of assembly, because in this case now I'm going to add my linked bow. So basically, I'm just going to cut a length a little longer than the card itself. And then cut a second length like it. It's probably the fastest way to do this. And then just fold it in half. And tape those 2 ends to the back of the edge of this panel. Flip. Hook that and pull, tape the back. Nice. And now I can add this to my card panel on the front flap of the card with the bow in place. Now I can open this and we can add this. Now one thing you might find is if you were to attach this in the center, it might cause your piece to go past the edge a little bit, because this and this is the same width technically. So if you need to trim just a hair off the edge, now would be the time to do that. I'll put my adhesive on the blue side. And if you just want to know, 1 3/8 would be the perfect place to center this. 1, 2, 3. 1 3/8 from the bottom edge of the card. Centers it up for you. Nice. Then this can go in next, and we also want this centered. And that's going to be centered 5/8 from the bottom. And then if you're using the 0 center on your ruler, that's 4 1/4 and 4 1/4. And some of you might be watching me use this ruler for the very first time in your life, and you're like, what? I don't understand how she's using that ruler. That's crazy. I do have a ruler video, Ruler Basics. Be sure to look that up. And I'm centering that on there as well. And now I did do something kind of crazy with this thing. I cut it in half. And it just kind of fits perfectly right in there. Good to the last scrap, right? Why not? Can you skip this step? Well, of course you can. I just thought it was sweet. Okay, now we still have this front sentiment here, and basically it's designed so that this nests centered right over that perfectly. Now, here is the same deal. You have to make sure your adhesive doesn't go past. So I just put it upside down where I want it to go, and then I can see the edge of that orange panel. You don't want your adhesive to go past it, or again, you'll glue your card shut, and that just wouldn't be fun, would it? So now I have my really sweet slimline card quite complete. Now, there's one other little embellishment we added, and I want to give you a tip. These really sweet silver flowers that we gave you have a little dimension to them. And you see how they're not pancake flat? I know how to make them into a pancake. Enter whatever you happen to use for your die cutting, or go in your kitchen and grab your rolling pin because it's out for the holidays anyway, right? And just run that baby through, and suddenly you will have a perfectly flat, like a pancake embellishment. The reason I did this at the very, very end is because you're going to need to let it dry. So I'm going to attach this to my card with the bookbinding glue. And then I'll place it where I want it to be. So I can get a pretty good attachment value here if I just put it right, tuck it right between the S and the exclamation point and so on. And you're gonna need a minute. Like I put my tape dispenser is usually my weight that I use to put on top of stuff. I did that for a bit. And then when that's done, you can take a medium-sized enamel dot and you can pop that into the center. Maybe a little bit of bookbinding glue wouldn't hurt. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and add some right now, just as an insurance policy. And then really just let that dry. And once it's dry, that's not going anywhere. I've been handling my cards pretty heavily since I made them this way, and these have not gone anywhere. There you have it. I know that's the last card. Kind of exciting. We had quite an extensive journey with just 10 sheets of paper and 2 Cutaparts. And the cool part is that now that you have the formula, I encourage you to grab some more Whimsy paper. And I want you to grab our bonus Cutaparts. We have 2 other sheets of Cutaparts that have the same cutting map, as I call it. And these are for the thank you cards. So you can make a batch of 12 thank you cards if you happen to be low on your thank you card stash. Some of you have wrote in to us and said, I have too many thank yous. Others say, I don't have enough thank yous. This is our way of solving that problem with a beautiful Whimsy set of a dozen really beautiful thank you sentiments. Special thanks to Karen for helping me get these sentiments gathered, and for Jacqueline for designing them. They're just beautiful. Yes, here's Karen's box. She did a blue lid and a pink base with a green piece, I mean, hers, she just assembled differently. I gave her the kit and said, have a good time. So you can look up on her blog to learn more about how she paired up these sentiments. But basically, it's the same exact map, just with her own assembly ideas. And it makes the same number of cards, the 4 4 1/4 by 5.5, 4 5x7s, and the 4 slim lines, plus the box from just 10 sheets of paper and the Cutaparts. So that's pretty awesome. So check out the thank yous, and then also be sure to join me for the Whimsy Page Kit Workshop. We're gonna make a beautiful set of 8 scrapbook pages with this gorgeous collection. I'll see you over there. Oh, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button on this channel if you haven't already, so you don't miss out on anything we've got going on here at Club Scrap. I'll see you next time.